Hi everyone. So I hope you have a really great day. I just really want my kids to know. I want them to have a great day. All right, we are going to focus on first, second, and third person again. I know that we've discussed this. We are going to tackle it with new things to understand it. So we always have a beginner's part where we start, and then we slowly advance and add more things to understanding what everything means. Same with pronouns. We're going to do the same thing. We're adding more to help us understand pronouns better. It's not just memorizing this, but it's how they're being used in sentences together. And we're also going to talk about our auxiliary verbs and dive into them more. Hopefully that you have studied the lessons and that you have the pronouns and you've understood where you're going to be at right now, because we're diving into harder things. You have to understand the other, you start understanding this. Okay, so Chad at the sunroom table studied before his test, and when I put this lesson together, he was doing that. Yeah, because I really just want us to remember how to diagram. If you're really just saying, I can find my subject and verb, just find your subject and verb. But most people oftentimes cannot find their subject without finding their verbs. The verbs are pretty easy. Now there's lots of nouns in sentences, and that's the reason why that's a little bit difficult. I always typically start with the verb. So what's the verb in here, you guys? Studied. Nice. So we're going to start off our diagramming sentences right there. And we're going to put studied for the verb. Who studied?
Chad.
Chad studied. So remember, it needs to be capitalized because it's the start of the sentence. Now this is the part that you haven't focused on. We don't have a direct object in this sentence. So we're just going to go Chad studied. That's the main part of this sentence. Now we have an adjective phrase, and it's a prepositional phrase acting as an adjective phrase that is describing Chad. What is it?
At the sunroom table.
So at the sunroom table, you're right. Now this is an adjective phrase because it's describing a noun. Yeah. So this is how you would diagram that. You bring it down a slanted line, and then you diagram it over into a horizontal line, right? Okay, so now we have our preposition. I am having a hard time talking today. It goes on the slanted line, and then what's our object of the preposition?
Sunroom.
Object, yep, what's the object of the preposition?
At the sunroom.
Try it again.
Table.
Table.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know table was the thing.
Table. Okay, so now what's the adjectives describing table?
Sunroom and the.
Yep. The and sunroom. Okay, we're just doing that for sunroom. Okay, so now we have an adverb phrase describing the verb. See how this right here, this is describing Chad. Chad's at the sunroom. Where is he at? Where is Chad at? It's describing Chad. Now this one right here, before his test. Well, what's before this test? He studied. It's describing studied. This is an adverb phrase. This is a prepositional phrase acting as an adverb phrase. And we're going to put this on the slanted line. Gosh, I can't write it like this. And what is your object of the preposition?
Test.
Test. And then what's your adjective?
Is.
His. Okay, so right here we're going to go into more about his, because this right here sits in a pronoun position, right? But this is an adjective, and so we're going to talk about that more to help you guys understand that. Okay, now diagramming sentences. I diagram under the Reed-Kellogg system. That's what I've taught you to diagram. And they started around the early 1800s, I think. I could be wrong on the dates. They wanted people to understand their grammar better, and so they put this system together. And this is their main systems that they put together. You have your subject and your verb with the full line right here, all the way through. And then your other piece of the sentence with your direct object sitting over here on the end. Okay? So then here we have our subject and a verb with the straight line with our predicate. When I say predicate, what do you think that means? The predicate what? Nominative, and the predicate?
Adjective.
Adjective. That's what sits right here. Now, here's another sentence that we're going to diagram. The kitchen is clean after hours of canning. All right, what's your verb? So I always start like this, but I typically read the sentence first before I start my diagram. And so with this one, I can know right off the bat that I can just start it like this. All right, so what is your verb?
Is clean.
What's the verb? You're close.
Oh, it is.
Okay, the verb is. Well, what is?
The kitchen.
Kitchen. Okay, now you have, which was the predicate over here. We have a predicate what? Predicate adjective.
And it's clean.
And it's clean. You know how you can tell if this is a predicate adjective? It's because, look, if we say the clean kitchen, then you know you have an adjective. Okay? The kitchen is clean. So then we know that we have an adjective. Okay, so we have our subject, verb, predicate adjective. Now we have an adverb phrase in here describing something. After hours. What's it describing? What word is it describing?
Clean.
You would think that.
Of cleaning.
You would think that.
Cleaning? What? That's enough. Wait, mom. Of cleaning is a preposition.
So we're going to talk about this. After hours and of canning.
Oh, what?
So after hours, we have two prepositional phrases here. This right here is an adverb phrase. This right here is a phrase. This is a prepositional phrase acting as an adverb describing one of the words. After hours is describing what word? So remember, these can adverbs describe verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. So these are so much harder to place. Where am I going to place it? What word is it actually describing? So Daniel thinks it's clean. Paul thinks it's clean, but it's after hours. What is the kitchen? It's is. After hours, it is clean. After hours. So we're going to put this right here, and we're going to do after right here on the slanted line and hours. Can you see that all right? Yeah. Okay, now, well, of canning. What's this describing?
An adjective phrase.
This right here, this is an adverb phrase. This is an adjective phrase. This is describing what word?
Canning hours.
Yep. Of canning, this is describing the hours. It was the hours of canning.
That's what I thought, but
it's confusing. You're like, which word is it actually describing? Yeah.
I thought of canning was a prepositional phrase.
Of canning is a prepositional phrase, but these prepositional phrases act as adjectives and adverbs in other parts of speech. Okay? But right here, this is acting as an adjective describing the noun hours. And so we're going to put of right here. Whoops, that's an F. And then canning. This is the object of the preposition. It goes on the straight line that's supposed to be straight. It doesn't look super straight. Canning. So see how this works? This right here is an adverb phrase describing this verb. This right here is an adjective phrase describing this noun. So describing words are placed beneath the word they describe. Look, it's beneath. Oh, we forgot a word right here. The. This is an article, but it's also an adjective. Articles are adjectives. And it's describing, so it's going beneath the word they describe. Look, these are all going beneath because they're describing this, right? Prepositions are placed on the slanted line, and the objects of the preposition are placed on the straight line. A line dividing the entire subject with the entire predicate is used right here. A line dividing the entire subject with the entire predicate is used. That's the only time you put an entire line straight through it, okay? The subject is doing the action and the verb is the action. It's studied. This is doing the action. Chad is the one that's doing the studying. Chad is doing the studying, right? Understanding parts of speech become easier after you learn to diagram different parts of speech. Now, I believe this so much because I was not taught this. And I studied so much that I just love it. And it has helped me understand parts of speech. It's helped me to be a better writer because I'm understanding my parts of speech. And not only that, I'm understanding what people are saying better. And you wouldn't think that that matters, but it does. You wouldn't think that listening to a podcast and you wouldn't understand this better, but you do. So some people think it is best not to diagram, but I think it hinders your ability to understand your grammar without the diagramming. So I think if you're not diagramming, your grammar is being hindered. Now, I'm not going to knock people for believing that, but my belief, because I went my whole childhood and into my early 20s and without learning this. And once I started learning diagramming, I could understand it so much better. Let's dive into our persons. Let's talk about the word our and are really quick. Because when we're speaking quickly, this is the word that actually comes out. But you should be trying to force yourself to say the word our house, not our house.
Our house.
It's our house, not our house. This is a verb. This is an adjective. Completely different parts of speech. So if you notice when you're speaking, and I will move into that because the way your tongue works and how your speed of your speaking, it forces you to say this. But correct your speaking. If you notice that you are saying are, if you notice that you are saying are and not our, switch it. Correct yourself and fix it. Okay? All right, so now we have third person. Now, these are examples of a third person. Dishes, pan, oven. So give me some sentences. Now I'm going to say these ones right here are subjects. The dishes are clean. The pan is clean. The oven is dirty. All right, so these are my subjects. Just because right here I'm saying this is third person right here, and it's sitting in a subject position, does that mean these only sit in subject positions? No, put dishes in a different noun position besides the subject position.
He did the dishes.
Oh, nice. He did the dishes. So he did the dishes. Right? So we have our subject, our verb, and our direct object, right?
He didn't do the dishes.
He didn't do the dishes. So right here, he didn't do the dishes. Okay, so now, what's your verb in here?
Did, do.
Did and do. Remember, that will never be a verb. It's always an adverb. Okay, so, but then we have our direct object right here, right? We know that the dishes, once you have an article in front of it, you know that's a noun. So you know it can't fit in with the verb. It's part of the predicate. It's not part of the verb. Make sense? Okay, so just because I'm saying that these are subjects sitting in the third person, see how this can sit in, these all sit in noun positions. Right here. So they can bounce. Second person, you, yours, your, yourself. We only focused on you, so you'd have that in your mind. Second person is you. But it's also these. You, yours, your, yourself. These will sit in other parts of your sentence, but they need to work with each other. If you're going to write in second person, you're going to stay in second person. If you're going to write in third person, you're going to stay in third person. So you need to know these. These are second persons. You, let's say them.
You,
yours, your, yourself. Say it again. You, yours, your, yourself. You, yours, your, yourself. Now,
you, yours.
so I want you to remember, so we memorized that you is second person. But now we're memorizing that all of these sit in second person, but these will sit in different parts of speech. Okay? So, or different positions, different noun positions, because these are pronouns. Pronouns sit in noun positions. They replace nouns. So, you need to remember, these will sit in noun positions, but you need to, if you're going to write in second person, write in second person and use your other pronouns as you go. Okay? Now we have first person. Daniel, you seeing this? Now this is where I want you to understand. These are pronouns that sit in first person. Now remember, when we say first person, we learned I and we. Those are your subjects, right? So if you're going to write in first person, you need to use the objects. Also, you need to use these object words and work them together in your sentence. You don't go from first person to third person. You don't bounce all over. If you're going to write in first person, stay in first person. If you're going to write in third person, stay in third person. So you have to work the words that work in first person together. Okay, now let's go over here. So let's go through these. I, me, we, us, mine, ours, myself, ourselves. Let's do them again. I, me, we, us, mine, ours, myself, ourselves. This, you guys, needs to be memorized. So once you know, so yeah, I and we, these are subjects, right? Me is object. Us is object. These other ones, they're going to be, you're going to have subject, you're going to have objects, you're going to have possessive pronouns, you're going to have possessive determiners. Anyways, but you need to know that they fit in the pronoun section, and you need to know where your pronouns fit. Are they in third person, second person, or first person? You need to know that to be a good writer. Now, lots of people, or at least a good editor, so lots of people can write, right, but they can't edit, and that's why they pay for editors, and editors fix all of these things. So, but people that write obviously want to be good at this too. I goes with me, goes with mine, right? What is mine? It's a possessive pronoun. It's not an adjective. This one's not an adjective. This is a possessive pronoun. Okay? Right here. This is mine. It's possessing whatever this is. And this is a pronoun. that replaces something else, right? Do you remember what ourselves? These are pronouns right here. All of these right here. The whole point of this right here, you guys, these right here are pronouns, but they're going to sit in different parts of sentences. These are reflective pronouns. See, they reflect back to yourself. That's what these ones are right here. But these ones are your basic pronouns that we've learned. I, me, my, mine, you, your, yours. See, you, your, yours, yourself. But these are reflecting it back to yourself. Does that make sense? But you need to remember that these right here fit in first person. These are pronouns that fit in first person. Okay? So mine is... It is a pronoun, a describing pronoun. It's a possessive pronoun that sits by itself, right here. It can have its own position. So, oh, this is mine. Okay, this is mine. Whoops. This is mine right here. This right here is a pronoun changing this. It's to mine. Right? So what is it? It's a predicate nominative that's changing this. Do you see that? Because this is a pronoun. It's a possessive pronoun. Right here, I'm putting it under third person. He, she, it, they. He, she, it, they. Look, it's right under third person. Now these are all pronouns. It's going to work in your third person. Now you have subject third person, right? This has to match up to your subject and your verb. Him, her, it, them. What are these? What kind of pronouns are these? So these are subject. Which one are these? Object.
The proposition.
They can sit in any object position. There's 3 object positions in a sentence. These can sit in any object positions. His, hers, theirs. What do you think these ones are? Possessive pronouns. That's right. What happened right here? This is a possessive pronoun. These ones are possessive. So now look what's happening here. His, her, its, their. What are these? Yeah. Okay. So they are possessive determiners. Possessive determiners. And we call these adjectives. These are adjectives, but they're possessive determiners. They're determining whose test it is. It's his test, but it's possessing. So this is an adjective. It sits in the pronoun section. I would say pronoun family, but it's determining whose test it is. It's Chad's test, right? So they're adjectives, but they're still sitting in the pronoun section. You need to know that they fit here together as a team. Okay, so look at this. See, these possessive pronouns and possessive determiners, they're the same word. So depending on how you're going to use this, if you say this is his, what is it?
It's the same.
It's a possessive pronoun. It's a possessive pronoun. Boom, 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 boom. It's going back, and see how it's used as a predicate nominative? Right here, it's a predicate nominative because it can stand alone. But here, it can't stand alone. This is a predicate determiner. This can't stand alone. This is an adjective. It's a predicate determiner. This is his test. It's Chad's test, right? We're describing that this is Chad's test. And so it's determining whose test is it? It's Chad's. Same, look right here. This is different. This has the S. So if you're going to use it as a possessive pronoun that stands alone, you need to have the plural S on there, Paul. Do you see that? But if you're going to use it as an adjective that doesn't stand alone, you don't use the S. Same with right here. The adjective that doesn't stand alone is this right here is an adjective. It's a determiner. It's, okay, with the S. And then see right here, this has the S if you're going to let it stand alone. This one does not have the S when it's, can you see the difference? So this can stand alone, this one cannot stand alone. So so oftentimes people say, well, these aren't pronouns right here. They're not pronouns, they are adjectives. But they still need to fit here. They need to be understood that they are part of these pronouns, even though they're doing something different. Okay? Now, let's go back into first person. Singular, I is singular. Plural is we, right here. Now we have being daring, we made caramel, which Savannah and I made caramel and it took us 4 times. We threw it out at least 3 times. And it's tricky, but look, we have, this means Savannah and I made caramel. We did it together. This is plural. All right? And we did it together. Subject, verb. Okay, so the person that you are speaking to is second person. Look, you, the person, I'm speaking to you. It's second person. Does that make sense? Okay. Remember, third person is clear off in the distance. It's the dishes. It's Lisa. She's not even around here, right? Now, second person is you. I'm speaking to you. You. Okay? Now, third person is I or we, if we're thinking about it as a subject. Okay? Now remember, all of these pronouns, they work together as a team, and they're going to sit in different positions in your sentence, but you need to know which words go with what. Okay? So second person, the second person that you are speaking to is second person. Where there's a lot of confusion is, what's the difference? What's a possessive determiner and what's a possessive pronoun? And that's where so many people get confused, because they look similar and some of them are the exact same word, but they're not the same word if you're using it a certain way in the sentence. It does something different, okay? So now, possessive determiners, they are considered the adjectives, all right? Oh, sorry, my hands aren't working. We've been working outside and they hurt. So they are the adjectives of a sentence, in the sentence. So they do not have apostrophes. So you need to remember, if you're using them as an adjective like that, they're not going to carry an apostrophe. Now, the pronoun shows possession. If you're going to use these pronouns, you're going to possess something. They also come right before the noun. They are sitting in the attributive position and they're coming before the noun. Okay? And they possess the noun. All right? They're possessing whatever the noun is. They also describe someone or something. Now, these are your possessive determiners, which are adjectives. And some people say that these are not pronouns, but they fit in the pronoun family and you need to know the relationship to them. Okay? So these are your possessive determiners, which are adjectives. They are pronouns that sit in the pronoun family. They do something different. They possess your nouns. They come before the nouns. All right? My, your, our, his, her, and their. Their house. My house, your house, our house, his house, her house, their house. See how it's coming right before? Does that make sense? That means those are possessive determiners. Those are your adjectives in the pronoun family. Okay, so now, well, this is a possessive pronoun. This is where you get confused. Well, that's a possessive determiner, but this is a possessive pronoun. Now, these stand alone. These are independent. They sit by themselves. They're not sitting in front of the noun. Okay? These are what those are. Mine, yours, his, hers, ours, and theirs. See? They're a little bit different. So now let's look at this. My kitchen is as clean as hers. See how this sits all by itself right here. That means this is a possessive pronoun, not a possessive determiner. This is, see how what the difference is. This right here is going to sit in a noun position. It is actually a pronoun replacing a noun. This right here is describing. See the difference? This right here is sitting in a noun position. Right here, these don't sit in the noun positions. They sit in an adjective position, right? Okay, can you see the difference? Now this is sitting in a noun position. So possessive pronouns sit in a noun position. So hers, like this, hers, ours, and theirs, these are not plural. They are not considered plural, even though they look like it, that they have the plural S on there. They're not considered plural. So they also have other uses. They express origin. All right? Where did you originate from? So they're asking that question, and you're going to answer it with your pronoun. Okay? Your possessive pronoun. Okay, now here's an example. Chad, is this your book? What kind of pronoun is that? Or what kind of pronoun is that? Is this a possessive determiner or a possessive pronoun? This right here, your.
Determiner.
This is a determiner. Look, it's your book. See? Your book. It is describing the book. It's possessing the book. This right here, your, is Chad. It's still referring back to Chad, right? So this is still part of the pronoun family. Now look at this. My brother is more disciplined than yours. Well, Paul, what kind? Is this a possessive determiner or a possessive pronoun?
Pronoun.
Exactly. This is a possessive pronoun. See, it has the S on the end. See, right here has the S on the end, and it stands alone. This right here is sitting in a noun position in the sentence. Okay, so if it's a pronoun and it sits in a noun position, you know it's a possessive pronoun. If it is describing and it's sitting in front of your noun, you know you have a possessive determiner. That's an adjective. Super interesting, huh? Okay, so now let's look at how this works in the pronoun section, in the pronoun family. I like to call them families because they're all together. Okay, so now we have I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. These are subject pronouns. Boom. These should all be memorized. Now look, we're going to go through the object pronouns. These can only sit in object positions. Are object positions nouns? Yes, they are nouns. Object positions are nouns. And this is where they sit. Me, you, him, her, it, us, them. These pronouns replace our nouns. Okay? All pronouns replace nouns. All right, so now we have, I'm sure there are some exceptions, but as pronouns replace nouns. Okay, now we have possessive pronouns. That's what this is over here. Look, mine, yours, his, hers, ours, and theirs. These stand all by themselves. See how like completely related they are? So look, these ones have the S's. Okay? My, your, his, her, its, our, and their. These are possessive determiners, which are adjectives. They come before the noun. They are describing, but see how it's my house, it's your house, it's his house. But see, look, this possessive pronoun, they're spelt the same, but you use them differently. So you can use this as a possessive pronoun or a possessive determiner, but this one you cannot. You have to use the S's on these right here. And his is the only one that looks exactly the same with no plural S, and then this one changes from mine and my. I want you to really look right here. Look at this, boys. Now you look at it. I, me, mine, and my. These go together. You, yours, and your. Okay? He, him, his. She, her, hers, and her. See, look at this. This possessive determiner can be an object pronoun. See, like there? How confusing is that? But if this is sitting in front, then you know it's an adjective. If it's sitting in an object position, then you know it's a pronoun. Also, look at this. It, and look, there is no possessive pronoun right here that can stand alone for it. So they're possessive determiners, and they go in front of your noun. But you don't have a possessive pronoun for its or it. Okay, does that make sense? We have we, us, ours, and our. Right there. They, them, theirs, and their. Pronouns have antecedents, and they are used so we are not repeating the antecedent over and over. Doesn't it sound goofy? Paul, go to the store. Paul, pick me up some gum. Paul, you know, you don't want to keep using your noun over and over. So we're using these pronouns to replace, and those are called antecedents. What are the antecedents? They are the nouns the pronouns replace. All right? You need to remember that. Now, we have auxiliary verbs. Now we're going into auxiliary verbs, so you guys can, do you guys remember what the auxiliary verbs are? Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, and been. But they're confusing, don't you think? They can be confusing on how they are being used. Now, there's lots of different ways to use auxiliary verbs, and we are just starting the beginning to try to understand the different ways to start your auxiliary verbs. Okay, first off, we memorized them all, right? And then, now we're going to break them apart and truly understand what auxiliary verbs do. Now, auxiliary verbs explain the tense. That's what's super important. They explain the tense, like your progressive tense, your simple tense, your perfect tenses, those kind of tenses. And there's more tenses than that, but those are the ones we're talking about lately. And we'll go into the other tenses in the future, but right now those are the ones we've addressed so far. Okay, auxiliary verbs explain the tense, and they are the first verb used before an action verb. Was cleaning, am cleaning, are cleaning, right? So they're right before the action verb. These verbs are the helping verbs. So when you say it helps another verb, auxiliary verbs will have different positions. You're going to have them be linking verbs, helping verbs, and be verbs. So they're all auxiliary verbs, but a helping verb does different things. It helps another verb. Helping verbs go with action. So be verbs they stand alone. But then we have our linking verbs. Okay? And you just need to know the difference between the two. These verbs are the helping verbs. They are the verbs in the progressive and the perfect tense. So here's some examples. So I am cleaning the kitchen. Well, is this progressive or perfect tense? In this one.
It's progressive. This
one is progressive. You know that because you have ing. It's the continuous motion. Sometimes people call them the continuous verb. I just do progressive because I love gress means to move forward. Progress, you're progressing. And that's what we're doing when we're talking about this. Now, she has cleaned the kitchen. Now, this is sitting us where?
Perfect.
In the perfect tense. And these right here, they are past, present, or future. This is present and this is present. Yeah, so this is present and this is present right here. But that's what this gets so confused. So our auxiliary verbs, they are necessary for understanding and showing voice. What voices do we have?
Activity,
active and
passive.
So what do we have?
Active and passive.
We have active and passive voices. And when we write our sentences. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I'm just introducing voice to you, okay? Also, oftentimes our auxiliary verbs, they have two verbs with them. You will have will be or have been. Oftentimes you have these, and we'll go into that kind of tense later also, but just introducing that also, this you'll have them as a helping verb. You'll have your verb plus your helping verb. So oftentimes your auxiliary verbs, you have two of them sitting in there. Not always, but sometimes, oftentimes you do. I would say almost most of the time you do, unless you're sitting in a simple tense. All right, so now here are some sentences that show you what, now I am coming. What kind of verb is this?
It's helping.
This is a helping verb. This helps this verb. I am coming. So see how this right here, what person is this? First. Yeah, first person. So you have to use am for that. I am coming. So see, two verbs. But then you also have some that I did. There's just one. But here you said I did not come. I did not come. So is not a verb? Not is never a verb. It's a negative. So this is an adverb. So, but your verbs are what? Did and come. I did come. So this is your helping verb, helping the word come. So now we have I have a dress. Right here is a standalone auxiliary verb. I have. So, and then I have cleaned. This one's a helping verb. So you're going to have, in your auxiliary verbs, you're going to have helping verbs, you're going to have be verbs, and you're going to have linking verbs. And we'll go over that a little bit more. There's more tenses than what we've gone over. But you have to understand this stuff before we hit the other tenses. Okay, now here's another sentence. She chose the house, didn't she? She chose the house, didn't she? So right here,
third person.
This is third person simple. We don't have an auxiliary verb here, but we do have an auxiliary verb here, and this is a standalone verb, okay? How about this one? She did choose the house. What is it here?
Helping.
This is a helping verb right here. She did choose. This did is helping this action verb right here. So your writing is improved when understanding your auxiliary verbs. So if you're understanding your auxiliary verbs, your writing will improve because you're able to put your words together better, right? And I think the auxiliary words can be very confusing, especially the be verbs. I think the helping verbs are easy. I think you guys should memorize all of the auxiliary verbs. What are they? Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, and been, have, has, had, do, does, did, shall, will, should, would, may, might, must,
Can, could.
May, might, must, can, and could. So those are all of your auxiliary verbs that you have. Some are helping, some are linking, some are be verbs, and some are just helping verbs. So anyways, but get those memorized. So let's talk about gender in your pronouns. We have gender. The males, you have he and him. This is the subject and this is the object. What is this, Paul?
Subject, object.
Daniel, what is this?
Subject, object.
Subject, object. So this goes in object positions. This goes in the subject positions. Right? Females are she, her. Subject position, object position. They, them. These are interchangeably. So now, but this is the subject position and them is your object position. Okay, so now your pronouns, they refer to people, things, places, and ideas. They are exactly the same as a noun. They refer to the same things because pronouns replace nouns. So people, things, places, and ideas. That's what a pronoun does. Okay, so be verbs, they are considered irregular verbs. And they are considered main verbs. And these are what they are. Be, been, and been, they go together. But all of these are considered be verbs right here. Be, been, and been, am, is, are, was, and were. All right? Those are your be verbs. Be, been, and been. This is your present. This is your ing participle, your progressive participle, and this is what? Your past participle. Does that make sense? And then you have your irregulars. Am, is, are, was, and were. These have to be memorized. You won't know how to use them if they're not memorized. So now, how you use them? You have your noun plus your be verb. That's how you use them. So all of these right here, they can all stand all by themselves. I am, she is, we are, we were, right? I was. You need to make sure you're using them properly. They can stand all by themselves, or they can be, right, all of these, they can be helping verbs. I am coming. She is coming. We are coming. And that am, is, and are, they're helping the word coming, right? Does that make sense? That means that they're irregular. So they change as you're using your tense, whatever action verb that you're putting them with. And then these also, right here, they're your linking verbs. And then you have senses that are linking verbs also, like look, okay? But these are also your linking verbs. That's why it's so confusing. They can be 3 different kinds of verbs. What are the 3 different kinds? What can these verbs be?
Helping, linking verbs, and auxiliary.
And be verbs. So no matter what, they're all auxiliary verbs. But they do different things in a sentence, and they will be be verbs, which stand alone. They will be helping verbs that helps action verbs, and then they will be linking verbs that's going to link your predicate adjective or your predicate nominative back to your subject. Noun plus the verb. That's how it works. Noun plus the be verb. So how do we use be? How do we use these? Let's talk about that. So how are we going to use our be verbs? Well, we are going to understand our first, second, and third persons. That's how you use your auxiliary verbs. The be verbs are irregular and they change. To be, they change. All right? So, like we have our first person. This is I. I'm just doing singular right here. I, and you have to use your be verb, that is am. Okay? Or your helping verb. This is an auxiliary verb. That's how you use it though. You have to understand where it fits in your person. Now you is second person, and that's are. And you always use are whether it's singular or plural. Now with this one, he, she, it, is this singular or plural?
That's third. Oh, sorry.
Third person, yes. Is it singular or plural?
Singular.
It is singular, so you have to use is. She is. You can't go I is, because I goes with your irregular be verb am. So you have to understand your persons to be able to understand your true be irregular verbs. Okay, so now let's go into a little bit of the negative right here. Now, Paul, look at this. If you say are not, is not, once you put not in there, it becomes a negative. But are is present, is present. But are is what? If we're using it in the present, is it singular or plural? It's plural. So, Daniel, do you see this? So we're in the negative. If we're going to use it in the present, what is that? Singular or plural?
Plural.
This is plural. This is singular. Okay? Now, if we're going to use it in the past, was not, remember, not is an adverb. It will never, it's never a verb. They're right next to lots of verbs, but it's not a verb. It's an adverb describing it was not. So this not is describing this verb. This not is describing this verb. So we have was and were. There was not, were not. That's in the negative, and we're sitting in the past when we're using was and were. If we want it to be in the present, in the negative, it's are and is. Okay, so now let's look at and put a subject with some of these. They were, that is past plural. Why is it plural? Why is this plural?
Because it's a plural verb.
It's a plural verb and it's a plural subject. They is plural, were is plural, and were sits in past. So now we have singular, past singular, he was. See how also these stand alone. These are be verbs, you guys. He was. This is singular. This is singular. This is third person. So we're using the third person verb. All right? We have she is, singular and singular. This is an auxiliary verb that makes, you have to have it. You have to have singular with singular. This is sitting in the present. Present singular. We are. See how now this is in the present, so we have to use the word are because it's sitting in the present. This is plural and this is plural. Present plural. Now we're going to talk a little bit about contractions, and I think this is super interesting about contractions. So we have she is, she's, we are, we're. That's what this means. We're, we are, she's, she is. Now, look where it's sitting at, you guys. It's sitting in the present. Do you remember how lots of things when we conjugate a verb, how so many things change when it's in the present? How I've drilled that in. It's in the present. That's what happens right here when we're at doing our subject and our verbs. They're sitting in the present. We can't do a contraction when it's sitting in the past right here. Isn't that interesting? You can't do it. You can't put these together because what if we did they re? That's a different contraction. That's there. That means they are. And that puts you in a completely different, they put you in a different tense. Okay? That puts you in what? What kind of tense does this put you in? Puts you in the present plural tense. It's completely different tense. You have to be really careful. So if you're sitting in the past, you're not going to contract your subject and your verb. But if you're sitting right here in the present, your present, you will contract, or you can contract your subject and your verbs. I think that's crazy interesting. So look at this one. If we tried to contract was, what would happen? He, what do we have again? He's. That puts us in the present singular. Puts us in singular, singular, and it's in the present. Because this apostrophe S is an is. Because what you do when you take and make a contraction, you keep your first word and then you take the and everything over most of the time, not always. And then you have your last, see, from the first over, and you take it out. But the RE is R, and the apostrophe S is most of the time. Sometimes it'll be has, but you can tell when it is has because your subjects will line up. Okay? But anyways, just what are we doing again right here? This right here, you can contract your present. Remember, our conjugated verbs change in the present. Our contractions change in the present when we're contracting our subjects and our verbs together. Okay? Does that make sense? Because we can contract was, like look at this. We can go was and then not. Well, we can still contract this, but you contract it with an adverb. So we can do this one, were. You weren't. Okay, so see how you can contract it, but you have to have an adverb to contract that. Does that make sense? You're not contracting the past with your subject. So fun and interesting. Okay, so now look at this. We're going to go is being. Okay, is being. We know that this is a present participle because we have our helping verb right here. And this right here is our participle. Now this right here would be what? This is singular and this is plural participle, right? Is this sitting? So what kind of, just use a singular subject for this. And just do a pronoun.
He
is being. Okay, how about this, Paul? Do a pronoun and use plural right here. They are being. Now, we know that these are participles because we have our helping verb, our auxiliary verb that's helping this participle. Okay? So another thing that is a participle is been, when it sits in the past. This is totally irregular right here. It's an irregular verb. And how do we know that? It's because it doesn't have your typical ed on it. So it's a past, this is a past participle. Okay? And you'll have helping verbs that'll be on this past participle right here. Now look at this. Being, it's a gerund, which is a noun. Is a gerund a noun? What is a gerund?
It's an ing.
It's an ing noun. And most people, when they see ings, they just think that is a verb. But it's not. Sometimes they can be adjectives. But no matter what, if it's a gerund, it's acting as a noun. Gerunds are nouns. They act as a noun. So look at this word, this sentence. Being a cyclist is dangerous. Do you see this? So what is this being? Actually, acting as a noun right here. This is a noun phrase right here. Being a cyclist is dangerous. What is dangerous? Being a cyclist. So this has to sit on a tree. So it'll sit like, if we do this, is, and then we have danger. And then we have, this is going to sit on a tree up here. And we have being is going to actually kind of like zoom around like this. And then we're going to put our line down like this. Sorry, my hands. I've been sheetrocking with my husband and my hands hurt and they're not working right. We stayed up until midnight doing that last night. Being a cyclist. Okay, so that's how you would do this. So this is a noun. Being, you guys, is also a participle. That can be a verb or it could be an adjective, right? So participles are verbs, and oftentimes you will have, with an ing, when it's a participle, you're going to need your helping verb with that. Okay? An auxiliary verb to help that. Now, this right here, being, is a paradigm, which means it's a conjugation. Do you understand what a conjugation means? Okay, so you guys, so when you conjugate a verb, it means that your verb changes unusually. And where do we have our verbs change? In the present. So our verbs change in the present, right?
Wait.
So that's when we worry about how our verbs are conjugated.
What does conjugation mean again?
It means that things change. Our verbs are going to change. Be verbs are conjugated. And that means they change. It's not going to be the same as, it always changes in the present. Okay? Does that make sense? So remember when we went through all of our stuff and it was just the present that changed and all the other ones stayed the same. But once it hit the present, which I think is really interesting, you guys, that's the present is where we see this change, that we can actually do a contraction. Everything, when we conjugate, it happens in the present. I think it's super interesting. Okay, so now we have, it's also a declination, which means it's a prescribed order on which it goes. You have your noun, then you have a helping verb, and then your action verb, okay? That's typically how it goes. Now, it can be switched up, but most of the time, it's your helping verb, then your what?
Action verb.
Then your action verb. Your auxiliary verb, then your action verb. Your auxiliary verb, then your action verb. Now look at this. Paul is being a student.
What kind of student?
See, what is this? Paul is being a student. What is being here?
Participle verb.
It is a participle verb with its helping verb. That is a helping verb. This is an auxiliary verb. Auxiliary verbs are helping verbs. Helping verbs are auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary verbs are all of them. Helping verbs have a certain purpose, that they help action verbs. This right here is helping this progressive word. Paul is being a student. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So we could go being, oops, why do I keep doing that? Being a is Paul. Sounds goofy. But right here, if you did it this way, what would this be?
That would be your subject.
This would be a noun phrase, and then this would be a gerund.
Yeah.
Okay? So, but if we're doing it this way, then this right here is a participle with its helping verb in the progressive tense. Singular progressive tense, right? Does that make sense? Okay, now, you guys, I really want you to pay attention to this. Now, this is super interesting. So look at this, me being. Well, can me be at the front?
No.
Can me be act as a subject? Normally, no. I would say no, except this is an exception to the rule. Because me is an object. Look, me is an object. Me sits in the object position. It can't sit in the subject position, except if we're saying me being. And you're using the being. And it's completely informal. And it refers, if you're referring to yourself, refers to you. Me being dressed, me being whatever. It's referring to you. You're saying me being blah, blah, blah. But you have to be being. Okay? And look at this. This is your subject and this is your verb. This, yeah.
So if you were to say you and me being crazy.
You cannot use it.
Oh, I thought you said that you can use it if it's after being.
If you say you and me, look, it refers to you. Just you. You totally. Just you.
Right.
Not you and somebody else. So that's when you would use your subjects.
You and I.
You and I.
I and you. I and you being crazy.
No, it would be you and I. But, so this is the only time you can use that, is when you're referring just to yourself. You can't add another pronoun with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which I thought it was kind of fun. So look, This is a participle. This is your subject, even though it's an object. This is one of the few times you can use an object pronoun for that. But look at this, you guys. My being, formal, but my being right here, this is a possessive determiner. Remember, those are adjectives. This right here is describing being, and this is a gerund. Do you see that? The difference? Using my, this is a gerund. What is a gerund? It's a noun. See, right here. So you can use my, but look at this. Them being. So now you can use them. It's completely informal. Now this can be a subject and a verb. But this, what kind of pronoun is this? This is an object pronoun. It's completely informal and it's a participle here. So this is the one exception that you can use an object pronoun for your subject. Okay? Now look, their being, what is this? This is a possessive determiner. Possessive determiners are adjectives in the pronoun area.
Can you show them again?
So look, this is their being. Their, right here, is a possessive determiner. Right here. And this is a gerund. This is your subject. This is going to be your subject here. And this is an adjective. Okay? Or your possessive determiner. So remember, boys, being is a gerund. So it can also be, so what's a gerund? So let's, right, being is a gerund. A gerund is a noun. Good, Daniel. In the other things, it's also a participle, right? But I want you to remember, it is a gerund. It's an ing. So we know it can be a gerund. So being is a gerund. What is a gerund, boys? So it's a noun. If you put being with your object pronoun, what are you going to get? All right, so when using being, use the words me or my, not I. Okay? You're going to go me being. So you're describing yourself. Or you're going to do my being. If you do my being, it's a gerund, right? So them being, them would be your subject, right? This is the only time you do that. It's one of the very few times that you would use the object pronoun as your subject. There, we use them or their, not we. Okay? If we're using their being, then we know it's a gerund. All right? So remember, you use that when you're describing yourself. Possessive plus a gerund, that's no exceptions. Possessive plus the gerund being, no exceptions. Possessive plus the gerund being. All right, that's how you do that. All right, so now I think this is super exciting, so I really want you guys to hone in and listen to this. Now, remember, our progressives are our INGs, right? We move forward. It's a continuous action. So when we see our INGs, we know it's fitting into the progressive section. So when you see the ING, when you look anything up with an ING, it's going to say it's the present participle. No matter what, it's the present participle. But it's also the progressive. Now there's a past, present, and future in the progressive. And that's where this comes into play right here. Now, no matter what, this is the ING are your present participles. So, but this right here is going to place them in your past and present, and then in the future, you're going to use the word will. Okay? So, am, being, right? That is your first person, right? I am being. And then is third person singular, singular. This is third person singular. This is first person singular. Third person singular. She is being, or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be being. Are is plural. We are being. And then was and were, they're past tense. This is singular and this is plural. All right? Now, but remember, your present participle, no matter what, it's going to be a present participle. It doesn't matter. These right here are what's going to help you understand where they're going to be placed in the progressive tense. Okay? But it's still, INGs are present participles. But present participles, you need your helping verbs. These are also helping verbs, right? They're auxiliary verbs. There's three different things in the auxiliary verbs. But in here, they're going to be helping verbs. No matter what, your ING is the present participle. I want you to remember that. Even though, well, you're saying progressive, you have past, present, and future, it's still the present participle. Do you guys remember that? It's the present participle, no matter what. When you see ING, it's the present participle. And that can be really confusing because you're saying, well, if it's the progressive, you think it's past, present, and future, right? Okay, so now we have our progressive verbs with our INGs, but then we also have our main verbs that stand all by them. We have am, is, are, was, were, be, being, and been. These stand all alone. I am, she is, we are, he was, we were. A bit trickier. Be, being, and been. I will be. They stand alone. And remember how we talked about these? These have different parts. I could be. I will be. She will be being. Okay, does that make sense?
I have been.
I have been. Okay, nice, because that puts you in the past, right?
They be.
It puts you actually in the perfect. Have is in the present, right? Okay, so right here. Now look at this. He is loving. Is. I am, so third person singular. I am loving. So he is loving. Look at this, third person singular. And this goes with your present participle. This is in the present right here. The is in the present. I am loving. This is first person present, and this is your present participle right here. But we have we are loving. This is plural, present, plural. This is still in the present, but it's plural. And you have your present participle. These are all present. Is, am, and are, they are all present. But if we say she was loving, look, third person was is in the past, was loving. So, but look at this, it's still the present participle. So that's where it could be confusing. It's still the present participle even though it's sitting in the progressive past. I know that's where so many people get confused. We were loving. This is plural, plural, even though it's sitting with this in the past. It's still your present participle. But these are the progressive past. Do you see that? That's good. Do you guys understand that? What is this called? Present participle. Yep. Present participle. Present participle. Present participle. Even though these are sitting in the past with our past auxiliary verb, it's still going to be a present participle. Now we're going to introduce a little bit in the future. We have different tenses besides just past, present, and future, right? We have simple, progressive, and perfect. We're going to lead into different tenses besides just those. Okay, so she is being loving. These right here, these are your auxiliary verbs right here. This puts us in the present. Singular, singular, right? This is the present participle, present participle. These are present participles, okay? These can also be gerunds if they're put correctly. He has been loving. Now look at this. Has is singular. He is singular. But look, it's with your perfect tense. So you have to use the word has for your singular. You can't use she is been loving. You can't do that because this is progressive and this right here is perfect. So you can't put those together like that. So this is the past participle. This is called the past participle. No matter what, this will be called the past participle, even though it's going to sit in the perfect tense, in the present. This is the present tense verb in the perfect tense. Okay, so look at this. This right here, he has been. This is perfect. All right? This is the perfect tense. So that means we have to use the auxiliary verb, the helping verb, that is in the present tense. Well, we're using present tense right here. So singular, singular, present. Okay, so this, what kind of tense is this?
It's past tense.
So this is the perfect, right? Present. Perfect present. But no matter what, even though this says it's in the present right here, this is the past participle. Doesn't matter. It is the past participle, and you have to use the right helping verb when it's sitting in the past participle. And this is the correct helping verb that you would use for the past participle. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing because you're using a present and then you're using a past.
Exactly, that's why it's confusing.
And then
But even, what's that?
And then it makes it past. So, even if you have been loving, is that even allowed?
Yeah, because have is sitting you in the past participle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
but has is present though.
it is, but it's in the perfect. So that's where you need to remember.
Have is in the perfect too.
Yeah, exactly. Have is in the perfect. So they have. Have is plural. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is singular. So you have to use the perfect verb. I mean, yeah, you have to use, you have to use the perfect verb for the past participle. And this is the perfect verb.
So we just...
So if I say they have been, I can't say he have been.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you have to use has because this is the past participle. Because you're using the past participle, this puts you have to use the perfect tense.
Subject as well.
Yeah, and so that matters with your subject. So if we do he has, singular, singular, they have been, that would be plural, plural, and then right here is your past participle with the perfect. You have to use perfect tense right here when you're using been. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, we're going to talk about contractions. And she is being loving. She's being loving. So she's being loving is the same as saying this right here. That means it's contracted. So we contract in with our subject and our verb when it sits in the present. It doesn't matter if it's singular or plural, But if it's sitting in the present, you can contract it with your subject and your verb. Okay? He's been loving. That's the same as saying he has been loving. But look at this. Can this say he is been loving? Can this apostrophe S be is, Paul? Can this apostrophe S be is? No, because we know it cannot go with been.
Is that why we don't do contractions in...
No, when you're writing, it's just informal to do contractions. But how do you know that this isn't he is been loving? We know that.
Because it doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Because been is past.
It's the perfect tense.
It's past.
Yep, and yeah, it is past. It's the past participle sitting in the perfect tense. So you know you have to use has or have or had right there, right? You can't use is right here. So you know this word is has because it is the past participle. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Be verbs, they are auxiliary verbs, okay? Be verbs are auxiliary verbs. They are helping verbs, they are linking verbs, and they are stand-alone verbs. They're all three of those, okay? All right, so now let's zoom in right down in here. So, we have I was. It's first person, we were. We cannot contract past tense with the subject. You can't go I's with that. The past tense cannot be contracted with the subject. We can't go we're. Well, it would be different if we did that. It would say we are. So you were is second person, you were is second person. It's putting you in the past, okay? She was. Can you contract this? Paul, can you contract she was? No, if you took the WA, so when you contract a word, you take all the words over, and then look what you would get. She, you get she's, which is she is. So you don't contract the past. You contract the present. The present. Those are the words that you contract with the subject. These can be contracted with an adverb, but not with the subject. So you can't do this. And then see, look, you can take that first. We have different tenses besides just past, present, and future, right? We have, so you can't contract it. This would say they are, which is in your present plural tense. And that's when you contract, when it's in the present. Which is, I think is so much fun, you guys, to think, what changes all the time? It's the present tense. When you conjugate a verb, it's the present tense that changes. It's the present tense that you contract your subject and your verbs together. Well, the subjects and your verbs together. It's the present tense that you contract your subject and your verbs together, not the past. You do not contract with the subject when it's in the past. Not contracted with the subject when it's in the past. All right? Mm-hmm. You do that when it's in the present. Isn't that interesting? I just think it's so fun to remember that so many changes happen when it's sitting in the present. Okay? Now, we were loving. See how we can't go, we're loving, because this says we are loving. It's a completely different word. This is your plural with your plural auxiliary verb are. And that sits in the present tense. You can't do that with the past tense right here. With your subjects, you can't do it. You can't do it with your second person in the past, right? In the past. You need to focus on, you can't do it with the words that sit in the past, connecting your subjects. You were is your. This is the present. You are. This is the present tense. You are loving. You're loving. They were loving is not the same as they're loving. This is they are loving. These are not the same. See how you cannot contract the subject with the verb with the past tense. You can't contract the subject with the helping verb that sits in the past. They are, they're. This is the present tense verb are. They're loving. So this is where you contract your past tense verb. When you add on your not. We weren't loving. That N' means not. This is where you contract your past tense. You weren't loving. They weren't loving. That's where you contract on the past tense. So your contractions happen with your pronouns and your auxiliary verbs. And that's where you can see your contractions, which is kind of fun. So right here. Now, I think this is really fun and interesting. Look at this, you guys. So you can use, you have to choose. You aren't loving or you're not loving. So you either contract it with your verb and your adverb, or you contract it with your subject and your auxiliary verb. You can't do both. Does that make sense? But see how we can, in the present tense, right here, that can be contracted. All right? Are is the present tense. They aren't loving, or you do, they're not loving. You can do either or. She isn't loving, or she's not loving. So our simple tenses, they can have feelings, right? So this can be sometimes a little bit confusing. She is loving. Could this be an adjective? Most people say that is a verb. But if we put like our linking verb looks in there, because those are our feelings, right? Those what we feel. She looks loving. This becomes either an adjective, a predicate adjective, right? A little bit confused. What is that? And that's when you just decide, this is what it is. This is mine. This is what I decide what I want it to be. She is loved. All right, that's it for this lesson. I hope that was helpful, and we will see you in the next lesson. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching. Bye.